Good afternoon. I'm Arlene Burns. I'm the mayor of Mosier, Oregon. We used to say our motto was lost in the creases of most maps, and now we're very happy that we're on the map at all. And we're also dedicated now to take the microphone, and because we're speaking not only for our own community, we're speaking for all of the communities along these tracks in our region, because really it could have been any of us that this happened to, and the consequences might have been severely worse if this had been in any of the cities along the tracks. What we are calling for is a moratorium on the traffic of this highly volatile, dangerous fossil fuel through the Columbia River corridor. We are threatened at this point of this becoming a superhighway for fossil fuels, and this is upon us. We didn't even know the word Balkan crude 5 years ago. We certainly have not known how to prepare to protect ourselves from it. We are convinced that there is no safe way to carry these volatile materials through our front yards, right by our schools, and as everybody has said, we dodged a bullet. We're very, very lucky that we have a school full of kids still, and that we have a community, but this is a call to action, and we've felt tremendous support from people in the region. One thing that we want to call for is for President Obama to get involved and to make a stand to stop these trains until we know they're safe, and we don't think there's a way for them to be safe. So federal regulation at a policy level needs to change. On a state level, we call for Governor Kate Brown, who has been in support of the town of Mosier, to not let any Oregon land resources, water, wetlands be used in support of this transport of fossil fuels through our area. Today with me are elected officials from the region who all are in solidarity with the city of Mosier, and they'll each have some words for us from their different perspective. The first is Ben Stuckart, who's driven all the way from Spokane, Washington. Please welcome.
Thank you, Arlene. So my name is Ben. I'm from Spokane, Washington. We're the second largest city in the state of Washington. And in Spokane, the Spokane River runs right through the heart of our town. But also on elevated tracks through Spokane is the BNS Railroad. Right now we're getting 2 to 3 Bakken oil trains that come through Spokane. We call them bomb trains in Spokane. And that's because of what has happened over the last few years with that flammable material. And if we look at the other proposed terminals on the west coast that would come through Spokane, now Spokane's called the funnel. From Sandpoint to Spokane, there's 78 trains a day, and they don't go around Spokane at all. Here we have trains that go on both sides of the river. In Spokane, they all go right through downtown. And the one thing about Spokane is we're in the northern U.S., from Seattle to Minneapolis. We're the main medical facilities. We have 3 hospitals, but those are all on the south side of the tracks. 2/3 of the population live on the north side of the tracks. If an accident like happened here last week happened in Spokane, 2/3 of the population would be cut off from the major hospitals in the region. We're worried in Spokane about this. The Department of Transportation has the ability to make an emergency ruling right now and stop the transport of this product. But municipalities have to stand together, and that's why we're here. And the reason, 2014, I went back and met with Transportation Secretary Fox. He was pretty new to the job. And one of the comments, it took us 2 months to get a meeting with him. One of the comments he made was, when he first started his job, UP and BNSF would show up in his office, and he'd say, well, they don't have a meeting. And they said, well, with the previous transportation secretary, we had an open door policy. So when you're up against that, what we need to do is stand together as communities, because it could have happened to any one of us along those rail routes. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I traveled down last night. And I just want to convey to the city of Mosier that we all stand together in this, because this threatens us all. Arlene, pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, and we really, really appreciate the support. Our next elected official here is Bart Hansen, and he's come from the city of Vancouver, Washington.
Thank you, Arlene. In the city of Vancouver, we would like to convey our thoughts and prayers and show our support with your city of Mosier as well. I wish I had a lot of prepared comments, but I'm just going to speak directly from the heart here. you know, the city of Mosier is absolutely beautiful. I used to drive through here on my way to Washington State University. Go Cougs. And as I was going through here, the gorge is absolutely beautiful, but it is a shared resource. And I'd like to say that this is, you know, something that we didn't see coming down the road, but Council President Stuckart and I wrote an opinion piece on this not too long ago, explaining these very dangers to the public. It's very scary that it turns around and happens right in our hometown, or right in our home front here in Mosier. So that, you know, that's a little bit disconcerting. Now I could go through and I could talk through a bunch of statistics and talk about the dangers, but let's talk. Let's talk about what we're actually going to do. The city of Vancouver on Monday is going to be talking about an all-out ban on crude oil facilities in the city of Vancouver. Yay! Now, what we have done since 2014 is we have had 3 moratoriums. Moratoriums are not a permanent thing. So basically, we needed to have something that is permanent. We are going to begin that discussion on Monday. And then on July 11th, it is going to more than likely come before our council as to not whether we're going to vote on banning those crude facilities and expanding the facilities that are already there. And then July 18th is going to be the public comment. That's action. We're past the point of words in the city of Vancouver, and now it's time to move on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we have a contingent going to Vancouver on Tuesday to give testimony at the meeting for the proposed terminal. Next is Paul Blackburn from our neighboring town of Hood River, who has also been very gracious enough to accept our sewage and will for the next indefinite period of time until our sewage plant has been fixed. So we are tremendously indebted to him, or we wouldn't be able to flush our toilets.
It's a relief to be able to do something. As the councillor said, there's a lot of talk, but to be able to stand with our neighbor, I'm really grateful. We dodged the bullet, but it hit our neighbor. Now, it didn't kill our neighbor, but on a different day, it could easily have killed our neighbor. As I drove over this morning, there was a giant plume of discolored water in the Columbia River. Fortunately, that was just the glacial milk coming off of Mount Hood. It's a natural thing. It happens this time of year. But for a couple of twists and turns and a tumble the other way, that could easily have been crude oil in the Columbia River. Congress acted once to say that this is a national scenic area. Maybe they should act again to protect us from these darn trains. I'm going to quote the great theologian Don Corleone in that great scene with Diane Keaton where she says, "I'm taking the kids." And he said something like, "What do you want from me? Why do you think I could ever let that happen? Why do you think I would not use all my power to prevent something like that from happening? I can't be reasonable about this issue. I need to protect the citizens of my town, their towns, our towns. Please fix this."
And next we have the mayor of the Dalles, which is another one of our sister cities, and it's the head of our county, Wasco County. So we're incredibly grateful for the support that Wasco County and the city of the Dalles has given us. So please welcome the mayor, Steve Lawrence.
Yeah. Thank you. I was out of town when this spill occurred. I can't tell you what it feels like to be on the East Coast and see on national television the plume of black smoke on the Columbia River, a scenic area. We spent a lot of time in the last few years developing the old highway. We're going to develop a bike trail. This is a beautiful gorge, and at one level we're spending millions of dollars to replace that highway and to bring people down the gorge, which will, the bicycle trail will end in the Dalles. And at the same time, we're allowing these kinds of trains with volatile back-end oil to go down the gorge every day. I read something what the Ben had said, and it was a term that I was thinking. This is railroad Russian roulette. It is not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. When you look at the facts of this case, and a train went through some 45 minutes before that, and they talk about all the inspections, and then it turns out that there's a little clip. They don't know how to prevent this. It will happen again. Just think if this train would have derailed in front of Hood River, right there where those industrial buildings are. It would have gone right up the hill. It would have devastated the downtown. We in the Dalles are trying to replace a lot of buildings and a lot of businesses on 2nd and 3rd Street. We have boats coming in, tour boats. Over 18,000 visitors this year will come off those boats, and at the same time, what do we tell them about trains that are bringing back in oil and coal? I'm against the whole thing, and we were given a briefing a year ago by the railroad in Hood River, and I remember asking, okay, you have safety measures, could I see that? I was given a card, I called, I communicated, I never got a copy of that plan. So at this time, my position is no more oil, no more coal, no more hazardous materials going down the National Scenic Area. We can't have both. And we stand with Mosier and Hood River and all of the other people who are saying no more, enough's enough.
Along with these elected officials, there are many more. There's an organization that we're all involved with called SELA, 150 elected officials from the Northwest who are all dealing with this issue and pressing on this issue. We're professionals, we're elected officials, we mean business. Yesterday we had the great gift of being visited by 4 Indian nations who had come together themselves in a very rare and historic moment in solidarity to help heal the river, to give us eloquent wisdom. And Bobby Kennedy flew in to greet our town and to give us his blessing, and gave incredibly powerful and informative words that we really must stop this. It's time for a paradigm shift. These trains are unsafe at any speed, and we do not feel comfortable that that is possible, that there's an idea that, okay, we're going to give you more ways to deal with this next time. And we did a really good job, you know, with the recovery, and the crew was great, but that does not mean that this is okay or that we will be so lucky next time. So are there any questions for any of our elected officials?
Can you talk about what's happening now, a week later, what's happening in the city and what needs to be done?
Right now in the city of Mosier, we are back online with our sewer and water, except for a few households that are still being dealt with. The last one is the house of our own city manager, who has barely slept since the event started. So she's been the most affected as far as on a personal level. We have the Incident Command, which is a group of the Union Pacific, the EPA, the DEQ, various people have all been here for the last 5 days. They're winding down, and we are in now the phase to really start removing the contaminated soil, which will be tons of soil. It will be taken to our neighboring city of the Dalles, to their landfill. And then we're really working to try to get our sewage plant back online. That is not going to be easy or quick because they need to reseed this plant and then test it, because it's imperative that no more contaminated water gets into the Columbia River.
We heard that there was a meeting with UP. Is there going to be a meeting with them sometime today?
Last night we had a city council meeting that was noticed because our citizens have felt uninformed about the process. The communication has been hard because the Incident Command has sort of been tight-lipped about what's going on, and they have their own reasons for that, but our community was really demanding answers, and we still don't have answers. We still don't know why these trains derailed in any satisfactory way. We still don't know why they started or could justify starting rail traffic when they hadn't even figured out why it crashed in the first place in any justifiable way. We still don't know why, when the investigation is ongoing, that all the evidence has now been removed. How do you keep investigating? So there are a lot of questions like that. And tonight at 6:30, the Union Pacific will be having a meeting in Mosier at the Grange that from last night, they were given a lot of questions. Hopefully in 24 hours they'll have some answers for us, and we welcome everybody to come and ask questions there. Anyone else?
Arlene, are you concerned that the shipper hasn't showed a face? It's U.S. Oil, by the way. A division of U.S. Venture Corporation.
Okay, the question was, are we concerned that the shipper has not shown a face? U.S. Venture, and that's the first time I've heard who that even is. And indeed, we found this to be quite a shell game. You know, the railroad is a common carrier. They say they're obliged to carry this by federal policy, but who owns these tanks? Who are these people? And why haven't they come to Mosier? Why haven't they said a word? And that's a very good question. Where is their responsibility in this? So we would like to know those answers ourselves. Anybody else? Yes, please.
I've heard the same answer from Union Pacific about we're just the common carrier we're obliged to take, and I guess I would encourage them to think about why haven't they lobbied for a different, safer practice. That's the rule, but I suspect they have a little bit of leverage on that rule.
Okay, do you guys have any other things you want to say or encourage? Okay, thank you guys very much for your for being here and for helping us spread the word of solidarity for this issue.